What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Danny the Bull, here with, we got Daniel Lee in the house. We got the real Randy Chavez. We got VeVe Viral and Hello K. Thank you all for joining me for this live stream. How we all doing?
Doing good, man.
Good.
I'm seeing a whole new view of Kay's room for the first time. Normally we're seeing the other way.
Yeah. It's pointing towards like diagonal because I'm using my phone and I don't have a tripod. I can't seem to find where I put it, so I'm just gonna have to go like the ghetto way and kind of stick it and have Goku's foot kind of hold out for me.
Who's
that? Is that Trunks or Vegeta next to him? And Krillin? Or no? Oh no.
Actually, I don't know if I showed you guys. Like, let me pull this up. We've got Goku, Super Saiyan Blue, and Vegito, Super Saiyan Blue. And then we got some Gundams. We got some RE0 figures. A whole massive army of Marvel figures. Demon Slayer. What else have we got here? Oh yeah, we got more Gundam stuff. We got like a whole collection of nano blocks and Lego. More shonen stuff. Oh, and then this one I think you guys might like if you like Pokemon cards. There's like this one's quite rare.
What card is that?
It's the Sakura Pikachu Kyoto exclusive. It was like a promo they did like 5 years ago. And you could only get it from the Kyoto Pokemon Center if you purchased one of the plushies. So it was like a super limited one. It's definitely worth a lot more than the plushies now because of how hard it is to get. But yeah, I've got one of these, and my girlfriend has one of these as well, which is quite cool.
That's cute.
Nice.
All right, guys, you ready? A lot to discuss, I think. So many things happen on a week-to-week basis. It seems like there are always things to talk about. I wanted to start with, we've got the Binance AMA coming up with David. We don't have a date yet on it. What are you guys hoping to see out of that? What do you think, David, you should be looking to accomplish with that AMA?
More than just acknowledge the existence of OMI. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, hey, guys, we're going to list the OMI token, but just portray himself as the eComi CEO as well as the VeVe CEO.
I mean, it was nice that they, because they haven't done it in a while, because they specifically said eComi CEO David Yu, because I did make a point. I shared the article that Yahoo Finance put out, and inside the article for the Lamborghini drop, it said VeVe. It even said Immutable X in there. It's like, VeVe's on top of Immutable X, layer 2, spoke about, Immutable X, but it didn't mention the word eComi or OMI anywhere in that article. It's like completely just, not included at all. And then I said, why not just, have a mention of eComi in these articles? Because, you can very easily add that, VeVe is a product under, they do the AR collectibles, blockchain side of things, under the parent company eComi and Orbis Technologies, which have the native OMI token that can be used within the VeVe collectibles app, with further perks coming in the future, something like that. Just a couple of sentences at the bottom, like how they always have like that context section in the articles, but they give you a bit more context to the background and things. And I was like, it'll be good because it would raise awareness of eComi and the token as well, and it's not going to really cost them anything extra to throw that in there. Like, you get the awareness of OMI out there as well as VeVe, and I think getting more awareness of OMI is going to be, I mean, I would say unfortunately, but it's just how it is. Like, most of the people still coming to NFTs aren't like non Web3 people, like the people who already buy crypto and things like that, and that's just the state of the space right now. I don't think it's going to change for a while. So if they want to grow the platform, at least in the short to midterm, just throwing mentions of they have a token as well that is going to do stuff soon. It doesn't do anything right now, but it will do stuff soon. So just throwing that out there, I think would be good. But yeah, like I'm hoping with the Binance kind of side of things that they continue with that. Just throw some mentions. I think David, because David specifically liked that post that I made about the article and throwing Ecomi in there in the future. So I think he's aware that, hey, you know, maybe we should mention Ecomi as well as VeVe in these AMAs and articles and things. So I think he's got the message, and there will be probably a bit of mention about, you know, the OMI token. But, you know, Binance specifically, you know, Binance NFT is such a tiny, you know, aspect of Binance. Binance is mostly, you know, an exchange with tokens and trading, leverage, etc., all of that stuff. That's kind of like their main thing. So it'll be weird if they didn't at least mention the token. I don't think they'll announce a listing on the AMA. But it'd be good if they did, but I think they'll probably mention it at least.
Yeah, Randy, Dan, you guys have thoughts on what are you expecting, if anything?
I mean, is this something that's going to go on? That's going to be able to be shared with Binance, like the NFTs. I mean, like Binance NFTs, same way like eBay NFT marketplace and Immutable X marketplace. I mean, should he say one or two lines about OMI? Yes, but I would be, I don't know. I would say it'd be a mistake if he were to just focus on OMI, but I think he should mostly just focus on the NFTs. Most people don't really. You know, maybe they kind of know of us, but they just kind of hear of us in passing, and they don't hear it right from the horse's mouth. I feel like when David speaks, and you're like, oh, this is the collector. He knows what he's doing. Not just out for money. He's really taking care of the product. Obviously has a influence or final say on mint sizes. So you know that it's not coming from these corporations that don't have any sense of collecting. They just know how to run a business. I would like it if 90, I don't know how long it is, but 90 or 95% of it was on VeVe. Because I mean, when they're ready to market the token, they're going to market the token. If they're not ready now, they're not ready. If this is one of their ways that they are going to market, cool. You know, I think that they have a plan. I don't know what it is, but that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, my thoughts are they're probably just going to talk about NFTs. I mean, that's the title of the AMA series. It's how global brands are making NFTs part of their strategy. So I would say like 95% of what they're going to talk about is just on NFTs. And I think that's needed. It's good to just kind of advertise to a different audience subset, the fact that there's VeVe premium licensed collectibles. You know, another thing to consider is that this is like Binance New Zealand. So, you know, maybe the company Ecomi will come into play there since that's kind of a New Zealand company. But I don't see them talking about the token really at all, kind of, because when we look at David, he doesn't really talk about the token in general. And I would say the team in general just doesn't talk about it besides Reese. So, I mean, it'd be nice for them eventually to say, hey, we do all these VeVe NFTs. We also have a token. That would be really, really nice. But I just don't see it happening just yet, you know. That's just me.
And, you know, the price of OMI shot up like 40%, I think, after that was announced, right? And I think with the expectation that a lot of people have the expectation that we're going to get Binance now. Do you think Binance is imminent or any closer due to this? Is this like a hint that, you know, it's closer? What do you guys think?
Probably.
I think it's kind of expected. Yeah, I mean, I think what's very likely here is David mentioned the interoperability side. It's going to be very selective with very select marketplaces. So my guess is they will do Binance as far as the marketplace goes. So VeVe NFTs will be interoperable with the Binance NFT marketplace in the future. They may kind of hint towards that. But I do think the OMI token with Binance, that's kind of I think that's going to be coming sooner rather than later. But I don't know if they will mention it. I think probably they will just, you know, casually mention the token. But I don't think they will like say anything about the token being listed on Binance in this kind of AMA.
Yeah. So, and IMX tokens operate on the Binance blockchain?
No, it's Ethereum.
Okay.
Yeah. Ethereum.
I would interrupt. I'm here to ask the questions of newbies because I am one for web.
Question.
Work with our NFTs on a Binance marketplace.
I mean, they could.
Oh, go ahead.
No, dude.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think does Binance not support ERC20 tokens as well? Because I know they have the BSC20s, but say BS was it 721 or whatever Binance's standard is. But I think they do support Ethereum as well. I don't think it's like tied to one chain. So anything that's Ethereum, I think they should be able to list as well.
I think they use Anchor to do the multi-chain to be able to support multiple chains.
And Randy, you said that you do think that Binance is inevitable, and
at some point, yeah. I don't know the timeline, but when David said on Lori's space that they're looking at top tier exchanges, I mean, that's one of the ones that come to mind. So I don't think you're talking about top tier exchanges and then just get listed on maybe like on like I don't know what crypto.com is, but you would think Binance and Coinbase as the top two. The other ones I don't really like. KuCoin maybe. Not really sure the other ones, or what would be considered a top tier. Like, Kay, what's the top 5?
Top tier exchanges would be obviously Coinbase, Binance. Now, the top ones depend. There are various different ways that people rank them. So a lot of people use volume, and I'll tell you why volume isn't necessarily the best, because OKX and it does come into there. KuCoin is high volume. I would say that is a top 5 in my opinion. But I think it might have been Gate.io. That might have been technically in the top 10 by volume. But the reason why I would not use that as the definitive indicator is because some of these exchanges, they have very, very high volume, but they don't require KYC. And whenever something doesn't require KYC, shady things are going to happen. So, the allegations, and I'm not going to say certain, but the allegations are these exchanges, which are like kind of random, like Gate.io, which have very high volume, which also coincidentally don't require KYC, is that these are essentially perfect fronts for, now again, this is alleged, I'm not saying it is, but, you're typically going to get wash trading and money laundering, things like that on these exchanges where there is pretty much no KYC process, as opposed to Binance or Coinbase, where it's like very, very, extensive KYC. So yeah, I would be careful with using volume as a way to rank top exchanges. But as far as like reputable exchanges with, a lot of tokens on them to trade, a lot of active users, yeah, definitely top 3 in my opinion would be Binance, Coinbase, KuCoin. I think at one point FTX was one before it went bust. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say minimum we get one exchange this year, and I don't see David doing a interview with, another version of like Coinbase. I don't know if Coinbase even has a New Zealand branch, but he's choosing to do one with Binance. So I think Binance would be the one that goes up. Again, just my opinion. No proof of that.
Yeah, from a regulatory standpoint, when you look at what the exchanges are right now, you're looking at essentially they're all foreign exchanges, foreign as in like not in the US. The only one that is kind of US based is Uniswap, which is kind of a DeFi exchange. So kind of doesn't really fit that criteria there. So although I would love to see a Coinbase, I think reasonably they're going to go with Binance over Coinbase just for that, to get away from that regulatory environment. I don't see Ecomi being the biggest target because they're incorporated in like Singapore, New Zealand. They don't really have a US exchange kind of listing them besides that Uniswap exchange. So I think Binance was probably the way to go. And maybe sometime in the future when the regulatory environment is clear, we can see maybe a Coinbase. But that's just me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Omi the Clown says, with fleeting users, collectors at heart doesn't fly. They need the crypto hoes and bros to pump the coin. What do you guys think of the state of VeVe right now, and the fleeting users, as Omi the Clown says?
Like year over year, yeah, we lost a lot of users. If we're doing like month over month, I think it's relatively about the same.
I think I just saw someone tweeted out VeVeFox data that said month over month we were down 40%, but I'm not positive if that's accurate.
Was that on active users?
Active users.
Well, also that's got to be messed up because the merges had all of these accounts being used to merge, and then now they're not. So I mean, you can make the argument that the official number wasn't what it was
Mm.
because people were using 3 accounts and now they have 1 account, or maybe the people are still using those same accounts, but some of them were kids and they had to merge. So I think those numbers are, I don't want to say incomplete. They don't tell the whole story if you just look at it at face value.
That
Yeah.
account data is based on actual transfers, right? So sales in the market, not just necessarily logging into the app.
Yeah. Active users is by actual market activity. So whether you have a buy or a sell, that will count you as an active user.
So those accounts probably were not accounted for either way because they hadn't KYC, so they weren't able to sell or buy in the secondary.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fair
I mean,
point. Oh, yeah, you
I'm
can't do
of
that.
the opinion that, active users are people who.
Oh, we lost them, but that's such a cute
Oh,
freeze frame. Oh, never mind.
oh, okay. I don't know what happened there. Like, my connection was being really weird. Let me turn the phone this way. Okay. Yeah, I was saying, yeah, I'm of the opinion that active users, it makes sense for them to be someone who contributes. By contribute, I mean like makes a buy or a sell at least once a month in the market. Because like customers in a store, they don't count people who walk into the store and leave. They count customers as someone who makes at least some sort of purchase, right? So that's kind of like how I would generally count it. But yeah, I can see why the data before was probably higher than it should have been because it was pre-merge. But then also, like the data was showing that for the past like 6 months, VeVe was just kind of losing followers, losing users. But that was kind of, it made sense, right? Because the whole market was coming down, and VeVe's user numbers spiked like way higher than they should have. So obviously, it's going to come down harder. But now seems to be signs of like leveling off and a bit of growth as well in their socials, which is good to see because it's been the first time in like 6 months since I've seen their socials have positive growth, which probably is partly to do with the PR that they did with Lambo, and then partly to do with the market kind of bottoming off a bit. Maybe partly to do with the OMI token having gained 40% recently. That probably made it trend a bit, and people found out about VeVe that way. I think it'll be a mix of different things, but I think we probably were quite close. If the bottom hasn't passed, then I don't think the bottom is that much below what we currently are anyway. So I think from here, probably the number of users is not going to go down much either. I think it's just going to kind of stay flat, if not increase slightly every month from here.
Do you think they have like a big series of releases coming up in March, right? David said, I think Alex said, is it going to be like a daily drop in March?
Yeah, what do you say? Like how many days in a row?
I didn't hear him. I know he was in Spaces. I think he said something like that.
I think it was either 30 days in a row or it was like 50 drops in X amount of days or something like that. We've been outside of, I think outside of yesterday, we did have 1 drop a day for like 6 days in a row. Again, yesterday we just had there was nothing, and then today was just a comic. But yeah, I'm curious. I think Hulk we're probably gonna get because he's been liking a lot of stuff and leaving a lot of green hearts around people mentioning that. Then we got the Encanto drop tomorrow. Can't wait.
Let's just hope 30 days of drops comes with 30 days of marketing because we need.
Yeah. Do you think that now is a good time to do all these drops?
I don't know. I mean, as long as they're low edition count, as long as each drop is marketed, I think it's fair. So long as you're bringing in new users to balance out the new additions in the ecosystem.
I think they're gonna have to do very, very low edition counts for these drops because 30 days of consecutive drops, like the app just doesn't have the liquidity for that. Like, in all honesty, either people are gonna sell off a lot of stuff, or yeah, they're gonna have to do very, very low edition sizes coupled with a bit of marketing at least. Because I don't see how they can support that. Like even when we had like peak users, when they did like like the Christmas events and all of that stuff, like I did see a lot of selling off in the secondary market. So if they're gonna do a whole month of drops, then yeah, they're gonna have to do something to support the amount of gems required for all those drops.
And I'm tapped. I just spent like 500 on the Ant-Man drop, so I've been kind of hardcore with that. So I'm out of gems.
Yep. Daily residency.
I was just kind of thinking, like, do you think that's actually healthy? I mean, not in the sense that we're kind of losing users, but you know, those month by month figures, they can kind of fluctuate kind of wildly for a lot of different reasons. Like, for example, you know, I went for the Lambo drop. I hadn't gotten a drop for the past 3 or 4 or 5 months because I'm not interested in that. That doesn't mean I'm gone. That's just I'm not interested in what's being offered. So I think there's a lot of people on the sidelines that are, you know, they're not just buying every single thing that comes out anymore. It's not 2021, it's not 2022. It's kind of a different market where you have to be selective in what you want to buy. So I think people are choosing to buy what they like, or they're trying to go for things that they feel is going to generate some profit or is going to hold value kind of longer term there. But I think long term, we're going to have a situation where there's going to be drops every single day of the week. You know, I think that's healthy because we'll get more people coming in buying things they like. I think that's a more healthy, sustainable market long term. But that's just my thought there.
Yeah. What do you guys think about sentiment? I know it's been like super low recently. It seems to have ticked up a little. Maybe that's as a result of the price of OMI going up. Maybe it's with like a little talk of Binance. The Lamborghini drop helped, some marketing. Where do you think we are in terms of sentiment?
I think most VeVe users are also, at least most active buyers in VeVe are also. Can you guys hear me with that sound? Oh, are also holding OMI. So that's really what we're looking for. Like, just show OMI a little bit of love, and like we'll get excited about VeVe as well.
And that goes back to OMI the Crown's point, right? About time to pump OMI and the effects that has on VeVe. I was in Twitter Spaces the other day. It was Doctor of Stuff was there. Ryan was there from VeVe. And we were talking about, you know, ways to market the company. And Ryan was kind of saying that they're targeting newbies and, you know, normies, and that's intentional. And that's like their way of trying to like long-term plan. And Doctor of Stuff and I were, you know, just taking the opposite side of the argument, saying that they should really be targeting the OMI crowd, which brings us back to that point. With eBay and Amazon coming around, what do you think should be their approach? Should it be a balance of the two?
I think they should balance it out, but I think the balance should be like at least 80% crypto crowd, 20% normies. Like, I mean, I told you guys already, like a very good friend of mine, you've probably met him. His name's John. When we went to Anaheim together, he's the lead dev at AWS blockchain for working on the contracts for the NFT marketplace, right? And you know, like he's kind of been walking me through the journey that he's had there. They're very, very. I mean, they are far away, yes. But you know, Amazon's kind of been dabbling with the NFT stuff for a while. Like I mentioned on your stream before, Danny, you know, their kind of venture with Blanco's block party, and you know, like how it didn't take off like how, you know, you would have expected, especially, you know, because they did a good job at hiding the blockchain stuff. Like I think the most recent Lambo drop, I give them credit for marketing to Web3, and that in itself should have proved to them, like, hey, you know, that one PR brought in more users than all of their in real life events combined, like pretty much. And you can look at, you know, Social Blade, you can look at, you know, the blockchain data for the wallets. Like it proves, like, you know, that's where the potential VeVe users currently are, because the normies, like, they just don't kind of, you know, they don't care about it as much right now. If anything, for a lot of these licensors, I think they're quite hesitant to market like you know, anything NFT based, because for the smaller ones, like we saw with Cryptozoic, it actually, not Cryptozoic, what was it, the Cthulhu, whatever, yeah, it was, can't remember the name of it now, but their community is more smaller and tight knit, and their community just had huge lashback against VeVe and the NFT side of things, to the point where they boycotted the licensor, and then the licensor had to suspend their partnership with VeVe, and they haven't done any drops with VeVe since then. Like, whether they'll do it in the future as their user base becomes more educated, yeah, probably. But at the moment, in the short to midterm, people are just too resistant. And if you want to learn just how resistant they are, the next time there's a Marvel drop on VeVe, take that Marvel drop and go to the Marvel Reddit page and post it there, and see how much of a field day those guys will have on you. or the next time there's a DC drop, go post it on that specific character's DC page on Reddit, and see how receptive people are. See how receptive the true fans of that IP are, and you'll learn that it's not a profitable way to market at the moment, because the people just aren't open to this technology yet. It's not mass adopted yet. If VeVe wants to be the one to create that mass adoption, then in my honest opinion, they're not going to be able to do that. They're not powerful enough. It's going to have to be a collective effort with VeVe and loads of other platforms, brands, Amazon, eBay, Facebook, all of them working together to kind of ease people into it. But yeah, like I think they have to, if they want to survive for the next couple of years, they have to focus quite heavily on the Web3 side. Unless otherwise they're just going to end up like hemorrhaging money, and like they're going to have negative growth, because that's kind of like what they've had quite a lot of recently, until they finally did the Web3 marketing, which I'm hoping they continue to do.
Yeah, Dan Chavez had mentioned a really good idea. He didn't necessarily mention it for Web3, but we could take the idea and adapt it to Web3. Anyone that has done any type of article or video or whatever for whatever collectible, whatever license that we're doing, go and casually mention them in an email. Hey, we're, if you're writing for CoinDesk, writing for whatever, we're doing a drop on this. They're doing a drop on our platform, and then they just write about it. I feel like the only time I've seen that is with Lambo. Every other time that we've done it, there's been no articles written anywhere else except for like Medium and people that also write on Medium that just aren't on the VeVe payroll. So if we do that, I think that would help.
I worked for a clinic one time, and I had a marketing lady, and she told me a little bit about press releases, and that's what that Robertson Cohen company does. They do like press release type stuff. And so what happens is you as a marketing person, you just send out just news, just information to various outlets, and then they can decide to pick it up or not. If it's a slow news day, they might pick up something that's like, I don't know, VeVe related, and then kind of run with that. So do you think maybe it's not that VeVe isn't doing these things? It's just these traditional outlets, news outlets, articles, they're just not writing about it because they're not interested in it. They don't understand it. Do you think that might be the case, or what do you guys think about that?
I think with Roger and Cohen, I suspect that they are like contracted, so it would be on a case-by-case basis. Like with the Lambo, I think they would have to justify the cost of PR for the drops, and I don't think it's cost-effective for them to do it with every drop, because then it kind of gets a bit like a bit boring as well. Like if it's every time they put out PR for a drop, it's too expensive. But I think for specific IP, because the times I've seen them do PR, they did it for Marvel because that was huge. They did it for Disney because that was huge. Lamborghini recently, that was a very big one. Yeah, and apart from that, I think the only other time they did it was when they did the IMX migration as well. I remember it was mostly like Web3 based platforms that covered it, but they must have done PR for that. Yeah, but they haven't really done much with PR to the point where people kind of do question, like, is Roger and Cohen still around? I think that relationship has always been there for like since whenever they established it. It's just they very selectively choose to use them.
Shifting gears a little, NBA Top Shots was in the news this week. There's a lawsuit alleging that they are unregistered securities, and the judge, I believe, is allowing the case forward. What do you guys think about this and possible implications throughout the sector?
Oh yeah, I mean this one was kind of funny because this one's got a lot of history with me because I think I mentioned it multiple times that part of the reason I got into OMI was I looked at it, I'm like, oh yeah, they didn't do the ICO in the US, they're safe from being, unregistered security sale, like they're being super careful, super compliant, they're not doing any of the buybacking your own tokens, they're not doing the staking to, award your own tokens, because that was me having come from the XRP community after, half a year of that stupid lawsuit. I was like, okay, never again am I going to go into a project that gets hit by lawsuits, right? And then now it's like, look, like VeVe could potentially have the SEC come after them now because they sold the VeVe NFTs in the US, and then there were a couple of other things. So I think the judge's name was Victor Moreo. What they did was they dismissed the motion to dismiss. So Dapper Labs wanted to drop the lawsuit because it was nothing, but the judge looked at it and said there is something there. So it's not going to be just dismissed. However, to quote them, I think they said it narrowly could be classified as security for a few very specific reasons. And some of these reasons probably don't really apply to VeVe from what I can see as a user. But some of them definitely could be argued that they apply very heavily to VeVe. And a couple of other things, I think, because of the way that VeVe is structured, having worked with multiple licensors and because they don't like operating in a gray area, I think there are some aspects which VeVe would need to consider, and I think they will consider, and they will act on it. So certain features, I think they might readjust just because they don't want to take a risk. So, one of the things that they said was the language that Dapper Labs always used in their tweets. They would always say things like, we've made, whatever $1 million from this sale. This card is worth this much now, or moments, whatever it was, is worth this much now. We've sold this many units, rocket ship emojis, da da da. So posting stuff like that implies, the expectation of profit, right? You can't do that. Which is why I think VeVe's actively gone out and said this is not an investment app, this is a collector's app, because they don't want that potential expectation of profit to kind of come into people's minds. And from what I can tell from their Twitter, they've never really actively kind of mentioned market prices and things like that. So I think they have been aware and they've been operating quite carefully. The other part of that lawsuit, which I think when I read it, I was like, ooh, this one's going to be interesting, was they said part of the reason why Dapper Labs NFTs are classified as securities is the success of them is very strongly tied to the platform. Specifically, they were accused of inflating the prices by preventing users from cashing out. They specifically said that.
That sounds familiar?
I read that and I was like, "Ooh, okay, this is going to get spicy now." So they said that, and they also said the success of the NFTs is tied to the platform. So specifically, again, that also is applicable to VeVe in the sense that if VeVe were to vanish right now, although David did say the artist stuff, I think that would move to L1. A lot of these NFTs, they do depend on the VeVe platform, and then also the efforts of the VeVe platform. I think we'd all be lying if we said the MCP has had no effect or will have no effect on the value of these NFTs, which is something that VeVe themselves are developing. I think conversely, what would protect them is if they went fully interoperable. So the longevity of these NFTs, the value of them is no longer directly tied to the survival of the platform, and also if they kind of allowed, like the which comes with interoperability, the kind of freedom to trade and sell them without having to rely on VeVe's cash out system with Wire. So something similar to like what Hero did from the outset, where they allowed the interoperability and also to sell an ETH. I think that is a very strong case where they would not be a security, but VeVe can go ahead and implement that. And I think we want them to implement some form of interoperability anyway, because right now it sounds a lot like Dapper, where it's a closed ecosystem, and yeah, we didn't have cash out for a while, and things did inflate. And it will be interesting to see if the SEC kind of starts to win in this case, and then starts to look at other platforms where, you know, something similar happened. But it's too early. There's too much uncertainty. And I think the SEC is more focused on crypto right now as well. The Dapper Labs thing, I think, was partly just because Dapper is such a big platform. That's the other thing. They always go for the big names, which I think can be an issue for VeVe because they are a big name.
But
Whereas,
this is a civil suit, correct?
Yes, it's a class action lawsuit.
Class action,
not the
class
SEC.
action. Yeah.
So it's interesting about this lawsuit because it's not the SEC going after Dapper Labs. It's a bunch of plaintiffs that are accusing Dapper Labs of selling securities. So essentially, you know, one part of their argument is you should have provided some sort of like risk analysis like you would a security. And since you didn't do that, you know, this is wrong. So to me, when I read that, I think of like this, they're basically, they lost money and they want to get some of that money back with this lawsuit. But I think there's some valid kind of potential concerns here. One thing, when I was reading some articles that I thought had really good parallels to OMI actually, is that the plaintiffs allege that the flow tokens, Dapper Labs created their own like blockchain. The flow tokens, not necessarily securities themselves, but are necessary in order for the totality of this scheme. So they're saying that without flow tokens, no transactions can be validated. You know, therefore, you know, having this blockchain, having this token, and being having to use that to kind of validate these transactions and transfer different collectibles, that is essentially part of the reason why they also consider it a security. And I thought about OMI actually, and maybe think about the buybacks. You know, we thought that buybacks were taken away because, you know, there's a parallel with stocks, companies buying back their own stocks. Therefore, you know, you need to get rid of the buybacks. But I feel like they restructured their whole entire tokenomics because initially OMI was needed to be used on the app. And that, according to this language, I'm not a lawyer, but according to this language, this could mean that there's a security risk there. So by detaching it completely, like you can use cash to buy VeVe collectibles, OMI is just there kind of on the sideline in case you want some special benefits. That's kind of a protection. And that, when I read this article today, actually, I was actually a lot more impressed with the Akomi VeVe team for having a little bit of foresight. I'm not sure that's the only reason why they did this, but it was interesting to see how a token, while not being a security, can play a role in a securities lawsuit, at least with this particular lawsuit. So to me, it's really fascinating stuff there.
To kind of address NFT Hero's comment there, I don't know the history of this judge. I don't know if we can get a look. I mean, Kay knows the name. We could take a look at other cases he's ruled on to see if he's crypto NFT friendly or not. There was a judge, this probably has more to do with licenses. There was another judge that ruled recently, I don't know how to pronounce it, Hermes, the people that make Birkin bags that are like bags worth like tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And somebody was making NFTs of them, and the judge is like, no, these licensors are correct. You cannot make money making an NFT of their product. So I think it depends on what judge you get, but also, as Kay said, that they're going to want to go for a lot of bigger names in the space. There's a lot of other places that are most like that probably would fit the bill of security as opposed to VeVe. I think VeVe's part of the reason why I think we've gone fairly slowly is because most likely VeVe's not able to do whatever they want without maybe having a couple of lawyers, maybe Disney's lawyers that get paid like $1,000 an hour to go over with a fine-tooth comb and be like, okay, we can do this, 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 not this, etc. So I'm really not worried, like, at all. If let's say worst case scenario he does rule like that, I feel like this would take like a long time to get to VeVe. Yeah, we'll be at the moon by then.
What is the worst case scenario? VeVe as a company gets fined like $100 million, and then they have to go through a long attorney process.
Yeah,
they wouldn't get fined that much.
That's a lot of money.
That's
yeah.
I was reading, but that number kept coming up. But like as a consumer or investor, how would that impact us other than knowing that VeVe is going through these hardships?
If VeVe gets fined for $100 million, they'd probably have to sell part of the company, you know, eat the bullet, pay the bill, and then just be like, okay, well, you know, we don't have to. Not that they don't have to pay it, but they sell part of the company, raise $100 million. pay that fine and then just carry on business as normal, and then just share less revenue going forward.
Yeah, I think the case with Library where they lost, I think it was 30 million that they had to pay in a fine, as well as but what they were told is they can actually continue their operation. It was just a fine, because what the SEC also says is, even if at the time you were a security, it doesn't mean you're a security now. So what could happen is VeVe NFTs can continue to be sold as usual. You know, you pay the fine, you bite the bullet. But if there are certain aspects, for example, with the renting, if we have renting at the time and they're like, no, you know, your users aren't allowed to make money from these NFTs in that way, then yeah, they would just have to be like, okay, well, but no more renting. Or if they say, you know, these NFTs are not allowed to be tied solely to the success of this platform, then you have to be like, okay, well, you know, everything has to go interoperable now. If not, then you know, like I don't know what they do then, but yeah, they can make changes to prevent them from having to, you know, go down the whole security route, which I think VeVe would then need to register as an exchange, if in that case, like a securities exchange, because they are selling these assets, which I think is going to be very expensive, require tons of like legal overhead. Like it's just not.
It would
worth
open
for
up
them.
their books to scrutiny as well.
Yeah, their books would be open. Like it's just way too much effort, way too much overhead for them. So I think they would want to avoid that at all costs. Yeah.
So then how do you guys think this might impact, you know, their plans moving forward? We've talked about the idea of renting collectibles. That's kind of like earning yield. You know, other things like utility. I know that like Yuga Labs was being looked at for their airdrops and whatnot. Do you think this is going to alter the landscape of what their plans are?
I mean, they had to do it with the OMI token. You know, they had to essentially strip away all of the utility at the time and create utility from scratch. So a lot of the utility around the NFTs was designed at a very early stage. You know, it came out like last year. So yeah, I believe there would be some changes. But I don't know what it would look like yet.
Yeah, renting is really interesting because, you know, you're not earning yield from VeVe. You know, we're not renting a collectible from VeVe.
True.
We're renting from another user. So, you know, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just throwing things out there. But that to me doesn't make sense, right? You know, if I want to rent something to Kay, that should be perfectly valid. Shouldn't be a security. But, you know, clearly right now there is no need to rent. You know, there's just absolutely no need to do that. There's no utility to do that, you know. So I'm kind of curious to see what they have in mind. I think we would need to see the VeVeVerse and see what that looks like, what we can do before that can even be a viable option. That's probably years away, to be honest. But that's just my thoughts on renting.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't need to be through VeVe either. If we're going to be interoperable, and we could just literally have it in the smart contracts, go and say, oh, hey, there's this event in the VeVeVerse or somewhere else. You know, make it so that we pay for, you know, 3 hours or 8 hours, however much time at a time. And then after that time is allotted, it gets transferred instantly back to whoever's wallet. I think there's an easy way around that.
Yeah. There's also been a lot of talk with like OpenSea and Blur and fights over royalties, which again will kind of like alter their plans. Is this a win for VeVe in a way, because a lot of artists now are going to kind of get screwed, right? Because they're not getting paid their royalties depending on the exchange. Might that push artists, companies to companies like VeVe? What do you guys think?
Companies, yes. Artists, well, I guess artists will go wherever they want to go, to wherever they make money, and I guess companies will as well. Well, companies will get that royalty fee as opposed to artists, because artists don't have that much marketing power. They don't have that much, you know, hand in the game.
Right.
And if you take a look at Illazilla's, that they wanted to try to release like the same thing they released on VeVe, they wanted to release on OpenSea and failed miserably. So clearly, a lot of like where the community is, a lot of where people's purchasing power is, a lot of it's on VeVe, and they already have like the best licenses. So I'd say that continues.
Just about everything, whether it's big IP or artists that exist within VeVe, has a larger market cap in VeVe than even if its first release was elsewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, NFT Hero says courts have repeatedly found that consumer goods, including art and collectibles like basketball cards, are not securities under federal law. It's a good point. Did you guys see the meme today about Chuck E. Cheese coins being?
That was a good art. That was so funny to me. The SEC investigative team pops out of the ball pit to capture tokens and things like that. That's pretty hilarious. But
So now,
interesting, that was Dapper's argument, actually, that hey, you know, we're not selling securities, we're selling, you know, trading cards and things like that. But I guess it didn't fly.
It's just because of the whole closed ecosystem thing.
Mm.
That's another big application too, with parallel with VeVe, because I think that's one of the allegations, right? That that Dapper kind of had this closed off ecosystem where they can, I don't know, but basically they can capture all that revenue, they can inflate the price because there's no way to cash out. So that's another kind of dig against VeVe necessarily there. But
yeah, and then David also talked about cooling off the market. Is that something that he should avoid saying?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, he should not have said that. That was a big. You know what? It's always like every single time it's been like something. I mean, I really like David. Like, he's such a cool guy. Like, so chill back. But man, like, he needs someone to like screen everything he's gonna say before he says it. Because every time there's been any mention of like something similar to what NBA Top Shots did with mentioning the price. I mean, like I said, he didn't do it. Okay, maybe he has done it in tweets, but it didn't come from the VeVe official page. But in Spaces, if there's anyone from the team who talks about the prices and the value of collectibles, it's always David. And I remember the most iconic one was Peely Fantasy. Like, he straight up and said, you know, these are like super valuable. They're going to be super desirable. He proper pumped it up, and so many people, even to this day, they just turned that into memes. They're like, you know what, like, anything that David hypes up is going to be Peely Fantasy version 2. Like, and I really wish he hadn't done that, because that now that's just ammo that people are going to use against him forever. But also for the whole, you know, securities issue as well. Even though it's not in writing, it was on a space, but people remember this stuff.
Yeah, Q1 coming to an end in just about 5 weeks. MCP kind of paused. Did you guys see that tweet by Mitch, which I thought was a brilliant tweet, because he was effectively saying that it was paused, but he did it in such a way that made us feel good about it, right? Like, it seemed like that they were making progress but pausing at the same time. What do you guys think we're getting end of Q1? VeVeVerse, because it's outsourced, do you think we'll get it?
Emotionally, I want to say yes, but my gut
say
says
yes.
no.
Say yes. They said Q1. You got to say yes.
You know how, like, when you're making a plan with, I don't know the best way to say this, if you're making plans to like hang out or do an activity or something with someone who is, you know, deals in the 420 blaze it a lot, you have to really go on drug dealer time and be like, okay, they'll be a couple hours late. I feel like with VeVe, you have to give them a couple quarters leeway. Like, if they say Q1, give them, I think that'd probably be the best.
So do you guys think the VeVeVerse home, like phase 1, will be within the VeVe website, or it would be like just a completely third party through, what's the system called, Carnivorous or
Cavernous? Yeah.
Cabinets.
Oh,
It has to be the web app, I think.
Yeah.
Because as of today, the showrooms don't work, I believe. So it would just be like a completely reworking that end of the website.
I mean, the vault right now, isn't it pretty laggy to put things into place and move things around? It's
very laggy.
Easy, Darkly. Yeah. We're not going to get any like vaults from like True Tech Junkie. He makes some like, I don't know, if the vaults are down, how are we going to get our entertainment from the vault builders?
Yeah.
I think maybe crypto pay-in for all in Q1.
That's possible. I mean, there's hundreds of people that have it. I still have yet to get it, and I'm kind of glad I don't have it, because I would put more in.
Well, you and I have a restriction for being in New York and Texas.
Oh, do we?
For what?
Well, mine says error when I click it.
For what?
But-
Cash out?
Yeah.
I'm like, I wasn't planning on using it anytime soon.
Crypto paying?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
New York is probably
that makes
restricted.
sense.
Yeah,
I
New York probably would.
hate this state
'Cause,
so
like-
much.
You don't have Binance.
So, Kay, are you? And I guess Dan, anyone that's in, I didn't know you were in New York either. I guess everyone except for Dan. Questions for y'all. Are you worried that at some point we are going to have like a wealth tax in New York or in the UK? And then are we like, what are your guys' plans? Because like France had this a while back. I think like 42,000 millionaires from France had vacated in like the 2000s because of this wealth tax. And I know there's people in New York and California that are worried about that if they pass that law in the future, what are they going to do? So they want to move, and they might have to do it retroactively. Is that something that you guys actively think about?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, my roots are grown here because my family's here, my job is here. You know, I got to retire, but it's something that I think about, and I think about trying to get around somehow.
Yeah, the other reason I didn't mention you is because I know you.
Yeah.
I think your state is like
Yeah.
your state is probably fine,
Yeah, we're really backwards, so it's
but
fine.
New York sucks. New York is horrible. Hate the state.
You know what, right? Like this was so interesting. Like you can go Google it now because this article came out 2 days ago, or maybe 3 days ago, something like that. But so I have to like rewind in time, like 4 or 5 years ago, right? Is I specifically made the decision to become a software engineer. The number one reason was because when I was looking for jobs that you could do in Japan, the two top jobs in demand were English teacher, which I didn't really want to do, or software engineer, right? And because there's a big globally, there is a skills gap in tech, so you can move around more easily. But yesterday, I saw the article. My friend sent it to me, and Japan has now changed their immigration policy. So if you own a business and that business has $250,000 like revenue, then you can now get permanent residency in Japan after just 1 year of living there, and you also get the visa to go there to live there for 1 year. So after just 1 year, if you have a business, you can become a permanent Japanese resident. But also, if you are a software engineer, you can also, if you are there for 1 year in Japan and you have 120K salary, then you can also get permanent residency. And I saw that and I was like, holy crap, that is so specific. If you are a software engineer, and I was like, okay, that kind of they really do need, people to fill in that tech skills gap. So I was like, wow, this is literally what I was like one day wishing for, and they just casually like put it out there like something out of a dream. So I was like, wow, okay.
Would you make a corporation and then pay yourself, and then just kind of soft retire and then move there anyway, or would you like work there? Like move there and work there, and that's how you get it.
Oh yeah. My preference would be to do like kind of like the first option that you suggested. I wouldn't be opposed to moving there and working there for that, just for like the 1 year, just to get the residency, permanent residency, because it's quite powerful. The way they've done it is you can bring your spouse over, and also I think some of your like family as well, like direct family, which is crazy. And Japan, just as a country, it's like probably my favorite place. Like stuff there is so affordable. Like there's so much entertainment. Like people are nice. Pretty much super low crime. Yeah, like I think that is really really cool. So that's one of the things that I was looking at is like non-residency is a way of kind of getting around like all of these like crazy taxes that they just keep stacking on top. Because we were already paying. Okay, and this is the other thing. This is like a bit of a separate topic, right? And I'd love to hear all of your thoughts on this, right? Is crypto paying, if you haven't noticed, right? Because most people in the US probably won't notice, is in the UK and many other countries, we don't pay $1 for 1 gem. We pay more than that because they apply a local tax, like a digital goods tax in the UK. So I think for us, we pay $1.30 for 1 gem. And it's always been like that. So it's kind of a ripoff. But no, it's just how it is. So that tax has to be applied. Now, initially, I was super bullish about crypto paying because I tried it and I was like, holy crap, I get a 1 for 1 gem rate plus the 3%. for the OMI crypto gem pool. But I was like, oh, it's a 1-to-1 rate. And I was like, why? Wait, hold on. Why is it 1-to-1 rate? Because it looks like the tax isn't being applied. And then I was like thinking, okay, with the app and everything, like, typically they'll have like a third party manage that for them, I guess, like maybe the App Store, they did the tax stuff on behalf of VeVe in terms of like charging that. But if you are paying in crypto, that shouldn't really mean you no longer pay tax, right? Because if I was to go buy something in crypto today, I would still pay the tax. Just it'll be, crypto being converted to fiat. So because that tax is not being charged for me, I'm thinking, is there going to be a situation where in the future the regulators or whoever find out about this and then they're like to VeVe, you owe a lot of sales taxes and things from these people who are paying in crypto because it's your responsibility to have charged that. So then every time this has happened with other companies, usually they have to pay a fine and settle and then recoup the money for the tax that they then owed. So as a company, typically what they might do is they might increase the prices of certain things. They might add like additional charges. They'll try and find ways to get that money. And I know with VeVe, it's a bit easier. They can just increase fees or increase cash out fees, things like that. So with these taxes, right, like, specific taxes within VeVe, what do you guys think about, the crypto pay-in and the various different geographies that should have certain taxes like sales taxes? Because someone did mention to me there are certain states in the US which have like a state sales tax that usually gets applied to gem purchases. But I don't know too much about that side. I just know like the UK and some parts of Europe.
Yeah, it's case by case in the States in terms of states. It's a good question, and I don't really know what the answer is, if they just eat it and account for it in some other way, like you said, or if they've thought about it.
Crypto's property right now, right? Like by the SEC.
Yeah,
So
I think so.
If the tax applies when converting property into gems. And then I also wonder if they already are accounting for it, since they're used to accounting for 30% from the Apple Store. I wonder if they just haven't discussed it, but they're already accounting for it somehow and paying it themselves. Who knows?
I mean, I feel like VeVe's eaten a lot of fees with things so far, like the Apple and Google thing. I'm very, as a big supporter of VeVe, I'm very tired of them eating fees and eating stuff. So pass it on to the healthy consumer. We're adults. We can, we should know what we're doing. So I just don't want to see VeVe eat yet another giant fee that they don't have to.
30% is a lot, but when you think about just even retail operations, I mean, 30% represents like paying rent to a physical storefront. So even though that's a lot, they're clearly still making money off of that. And they're also, with the web app and, what's going to happen in the future with crypto pay, and there's going to be ways to actually really shave off some of those costs. So if it was profitable at 30% with the Apple fee, then surely it's profitable now, even more profitable. And hopefully those margins will continue to increase as time goes on, the profit margins.
If they're rolling in it now.
I hope so. They deserve it.
I want to get back to the OMI token and the price we've seen, like we said before, has gone up. It went up like 40%. It retraced. Where are you guys thinking it's going by end of Q1? If we get the VeVeVerse, do we see another pump up? Or do you guys see it retracing to 0009 territory again?
If you does not mention OMI at all in the Binance AMA whenever it gets released, then I think we go right back down to 000s. And I'm still 50-50 on whether he will mention it or not. But yeah, I think VeVeVerse would add some buying pressure and take us up. No more than like 0018 probably. I don't know about TA. That's just where I think it would take us, a VeVeVerse release.
I'd like VeVeVerse to pump us, because with phase 1, you're supposed to get the VeVe home space, and you're also supposed to get OMI to accessory, or being able to buy accessories. And if you take a look at the OMI utility development roadmap and you look at the progress bar of OMI to accessory, it's just not there. It's just that thing. So I think by the end of Q1 we're probably going to stay the same. It depends what Bitcoin does. Bitcoin goes up 28-30K, then might pump a little bit and move with the market. If it decides to take a poop down, a lot of people think that it still should go to 12, 14K. Then VeVe goes back down triple zeros. Market will take it with it. I don't really see too much of a big swing if nothing happens. Probably still stay around here.
Yeah, just the price right now. So I shared my chart with you guys earlier where, I believe we would retouch 0012, which is kind of where we wicked above 2 times. So there's like this support that OMI has, like this trend line, and the lowest that I can see OMI going, if it was just to touch that, would be 00092. So let's just take the lowest, right? 00092. Right now we're on like 00112 or something like that. So OMI can go down 20% and it will touch off that, bounce off that trend line probably. But the upside is where I can see we could go if they mention OMI in that interview, and with the VeVeVerse, we'll probably retouch 002. So that's more of an increase of about like 80%, right? So I think either we can go up 80% or we'll go down 20%. So to me, the upside seems way higher than the downside now. So that's why I'm like, I'm not even like worried about OMI anymore, because it's proven that it does move with the market. It's proven that it will move off of like even the tiniest little announcement, like the fact that in November OMI went back up to 002 off of the announcement that Reese was going to do a video about it. Like that was such a like tiny little thing, and it did that to me proves that like anything that's in this range that we're at right now, it's just accumulation range. Like I'm not too worried anymore. Like the lowest I think it was gonna do, I think like that's over now. I think now is just in my opinion anyway.
You think the bottom is in?
Yeah. I think now the bottom is the bottom was in. I think now it's just like kind of bouncing around maybe 0009 between up to like 0012, somewhere in there now.
This is the first time I hear Kay say the bottom is in for OMI.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really hoping for that 0007 or below. I think Pags was waiting for like 0005.
Yeah, Pag's still waiting. He's quadruple zero.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Like, too. I think if you go look up the chart for OMI to Bitcoin, right? That's probably a better measure to use, because there's a point. I think I can't remember what it was. It was like 0.4 something Bitcoin. Historically, that has always been the very, very bottom for OMI. Like it's never like since OMI came, like blew up, right? That's always been the bottom. So the only way dollar value wise I can see OMI dropping even below 0007 is if Bitcoin also goes to like, let's say 12, 13K, because then the OMI to Bitcoin value, that's still going to be kind of around the lowest point that it's been at, maybe a bit lower, who knows. But in terms of dollar value, if Bitcoin is at 12K, then yeah, OMI is going to be below 0007 probably. But it's very dependent on the value of Bitcoin as well at the time, which I think Bitcoin does need to come back, but where it goes to.
I think Kay rugged us again. Dan Lee, how about you? Any thoughts on?
Yeah, I kind of want to stay away from the incredibly short-term speculation. I feel like I've been burned by that many times. But the way I look at the market right now is I really just ask myself, in this year, do I see the price of OMI breaking all-time highs? And with everything going on right now, there's still quite a bit of uncertainty. I don't want to get into the particulars, but there's a lot of uncertainty. So even if we get something like Binance and some aspects of the OUP, I just don't see breaking the 1.3 cents, unfortunately. That's just me. And I hope it would, but I know there's a lot of people who bought in 2021 that are tired. I'm sure the people who bought in 2019 are tired and maybe considering, leaving. So that's something we should consider. And also we should look at kind of the general environment where, I think, Randy, you posted something about Anchor with all these partnerships with like Microsoft and things like that. And I was just thinking, if that was announced in the bull market of 2021, it would probably 3x, 4x, something crazy like that, right? But right now, it's kind of only went up like 50%, and it might go up more. And 50% is a lot. I'm not trying to bash that, but that's nowhere near what it could have done. And that just shows you how the psychology of the investor is really, really down. So even something like Binance, that's kind of the holy grail of exchanges if we got it. You know, in 2021, we probably would have broke through or at least retested 1.3 cents, but now it might not do that. So I think the psychology of the investor needs to be considered when we think about any sort of like price appreciation theories there. So that's just kind of my thought. I think when everything is said and done, we can easily blow through 1.3 cents. I personally think 3.9 cents, 4 cents is really obtainable by the next bull run, 2025 onward.
Yeah, you recently made a video. I think your last video, you talked about rethinking your dollar long-term prediction. Foster's in the house. He's dying for that dollar.
Yeah.
What do you
candy? $1 price prediction.
So you're backing off that $1 thing? You think it's
no? So you know, part of that is like kind of the art. Some would say the clickbait nature of creating a YouTube video. But what I said was I don't think we could see $1 in 2025 anymore. That's something I said a couple of years ago. But it's still possible. I never said that. I don't think that's possible at all. It's still theoretically possible, right? With burns and positive things happening to the project. But even, you know, price predictions, they're designed to be kind of broken. It's either going to blow past that or it's going to just meet them halfway. Whereas like 50 cents, something like that, 50% wrong, that's still a huge return for me. And so even 90% of that, right? You know, like 10 cents, that's still a great return. So it's the $1 price prediction to me is designed to be kind of broken, right? It's designed to kind of just show the bullish sentiment, not necessarily exactly $1 by whatever time frame. So that's kind of my thinking with the $1 price prediction. It's just to show how bullish I am in the project.
Foster's paying us $2 for you to be bullish.
If we get, I mean, so the thing with Anchor is that they have like 30 or 50 different exchanges that they're on. And the only thing that really pumped them up that 50% was the Microsoft announcement. The Tencent announcement and the StoreJ announcement did absolutely nothing. And, you know, if VeVe goes, David goes on and they say, oh yeah, we're going to get a listing. And let's say, I mean, they're still very, very hard to buy the token, even though they are promising a listing. And there's also really no utility right now until they implement it. Like, I mean, granted, Anchor doesn't really have a ton of utility now either, but I think you would really want to have at least some utility baked in. And then I think you would want to have other exchanges as well, just so people are able to buy it. Obviously, Binance is the best one, but to kind of answer Foster's question, yeah, definitely $1, but I would say by the end of like 2029, I think we have to wait a while for $1. Short term, like I said, I kind of gave that opinion before. No idea.
Thanks, all chat, for the super chat. Got another one here. Thanks. No $10 OMI, Daniel. So, do we all agree no $10 OMI?
Late 2030s.
2038.
I just don't think it's possible. That's just my thinking. But like I said, my own logic in my own video, anything is possible, right? You know, people didn't think Bitcoin would hit 69,000, and people are making predictions that, you know, Michael Saylor made a prediction that we could see a $10 million Bitcoin. I mean, that sounds insane to me, but
it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, sauce.
Yeah, maybe in 100 years it could be like 10 million.
But yeah, I mean, just you'd have to take a look at the market cap. I think that we could get a $10 OMI if we burn a bunch. And I think, again, by late 2030s, so you have to wait almost 2 decades from now, let's say like 17 years, which is a lot. I think if you burn over 200 billion OMI, and let's say there's less than 100 billion left, and I guarantee you by the end of this decade, most of the top 10 cryptos, they'll probably have $1 trillion market caps. So for OMI to be in the top 20 by the late 2030s, again at $10 at 100 billion, yeah, that's a $1 trillion market cap. But I mean, I think most coins will do that in the late 2030s. Like, there's a lot of money coming.
I think $10 trillion coins this decade is a big ask, but I think next decade, 20 years into this, it's definitely possible.
There's a lot of projects now, there's a lot of crap coins, and there's always been a lot of crap coins, ever since Bitcoin kind of came out. Do you think that just the sheer number of really good projects like Anchor, Randy, you're talking about Anchor, Illuvium, IMX, OMI, you think there's so many good options that maybe there's just not enough money chasing too many great projects? Do you think that could possibly damper your expectations?
Yeah,
I think.
crypto.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Crypto as a whole is like VeVe drops. Like, they just keep releasing more and more, and that just gets money. And sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I was gonna say, I think the floodgates haven't opened yet. I think, once we get regulation and it's safe, it's a safer environment to invest in. I think you're going to see all that corporate money that's plowing into the stock market, which is valued at, tens of trillions. What's the stock market? Like 50 trillion. Crypto market right now is 1 trillion. I think you're also going to see, right, the population, millennials right now are more apt to invest, are more comfortable with the idea of crypto. And they're going to be getting older and controlling the financial system, right? So they're also going to inherit trillions of dollars and be a huge transfer of wealth, right? The biggest transfer of wealth in history as the population dies off, and they pass properties down, they pass money down to younger people who are going to be crypto native. And so I think that if things play out well with regulation, I think we're going to end up seeing like a tokenization of everything in a way. I think the stock market will be on blockchain. Everything's going to be on blockchain, and you're going to see multi-trillion-dollar coins. But I think it's going to play out over years. It's kind of like the internet. It really took until COVID to like jumpstart so many different aspects of technology, right? Remote work, all those things. And that's 25 years after, the internet was created. So I think it's going to take some time, but I think it'll happen.
I mean, if you take a look at Moore's law, which is the observation the number of transistors in a dense integrated circuit doubles about every 2 years, you can really extrapolate that and put it to the market. Right now we have, I think, 0.5% of people in crypto. And when you have Hong Kong before, or I think it was either today or yesterday, Hong Kong is setting up a task force to develop Bitcoin and crypto hub financial security. I have to fart. Hang on 1 second. Sorry, I had to fart. I didn't want that on camera.
You farted?
Yeah, I didn't want to be like, it's okay if I do it on my show, but
that's every fart on the channel.
So I'll do it next time. So if you have, again, people have been ahead of governments for years investing in this, but when you have governments of the world, especially governments like Hong Kong, that has their politicians are technologically literate, and they just want money coming into the country. You have politicians in the US that are going to do the same exact thing, but for different reasons. They're technologically illiterate, but the only reason they want a US crypto is just because they want to they know that people are making transactions that are not in US dollars, that are not in bank accounts that they can't track. They just want, to be Big Brother and to track it. You're going to get so much adopters in such a small amount of time. Again, people love chasing green candles. As people go in, people are going to lose money on all the crap coins. But I think in the next 10 years, you see a lot of people, it'll become the norm of people to get paid in crypto. And I think a lot of governments will actually prefer it. There's been a lot of propaganda of going to a cashless society because government wants to take a look at everything. And some people might want to hold in US, whatever that is. But a lot of people wanted to go and they might have to want to hold their money in something else. And, I don't want to hold dollars. I'd much rather have maybe gold or whatever than something deflationary. I think a lot of people would want to hold something that is deflationary, like Ethereum or maybe OMI, something like that. But yeah, that's just my opinion.
Yeah. So in terms of, so Flowkey went up like 400%, I think, after the Coinbase listing, and Flowkey is a meme coin. Do you think the same, we could see the same thing for OMI on Binance?
With utility, yes.
I think even without utility, I don't think we really need utility yet. But you do.
Never bought Bitcoin for utility purposes. Only buyers that would buy it just because they can, because it's on exchanges, and just because of the hype, like, oh, they're working with VeVe, they're working with Disney, without even caring about the details or the specifics.
I think last cycle, they had $138 million of volume in one day at peak. So to put that in perspective, that's like more than half the current market cap of the whole token, and they did that half the market cap in one day, in terms in dollar value. So, you know, and that is volume from literally shit forex, and that's basically what they had at the time. Like there wasn't even Uniswap when they did that. So like, you know, to put that in perspective, right? The worst token on Binance, the most memest of tokens, I can't remember what it was, but even that, which did nothing, did $1 million of volume a day, right? And right now, OMI doesn't even. Oh, now it does do $1 million, but last week it didn't even do $1 million of volume a day. It was doing like 800,000, something like that. So that's a point of perspective, right? Like, if on the worst, like, well, not the worst, but a really bad exchange, if it could still do $138 million of volume a day, and the worst token on Binance, you know, during the last run was doing more volume than what OMI is now doing, then, you know, couple that with the fact that, you know, this cycle should be bigger than the last one, because that's typically how it happens. Like, you know, each cycle gets progressively bigger. Then, yeah, I think, you know, OMI can, at the current price, if I was to say, can it do a 400% increase? Yeah, definitely. I would expect it, you know, where is it right now? Like 0.0011 or something, right? That's 0.44%. I think it can, you know, just off the Binance and a bit of volume, I think it can definitely go back to 0.5%. So, you know, that's like, you know, 5x what it is right now. And that's without the utility. If you throw in the utility and everything else, then yeah, I think we see the all-time highs again and then surpass that. But that's perfect case scenario. If we have the utility, got the Binance, you know, bull run has started. They do say, you know, they kind of raise awareness of it, etc., etc. Then yeah, then I think we see all-time high and past that. They don't, then just off of the listing, I think we can get back to 0.5%. Like, if nothing else happens.
What do you guys consider the major threats?
Not being listed.
But even if we're not listed, let's say worst case scenario, we're not listed, they continue their slow rollouts. Do we still move with the market and get back to last cycle's high, all-time high of 0.008?
With no listing and no utility, just riding off Bitcoin waves? I don't think.
I think we go to probably 0.003, maybe peak at 0.004, but I don't think we can go back to 0.008 without something extra anymore.
I think we just need exchanges. If we just have exchanges and nothing else happens, I think OMI would still, through sheer inertia, would do well if the market was also really, really bullish. I mean, that's happened in the past. Like, there's a lot of projects that had nothing done, but still, you know, blew up in valuations. That's crypto.
Yeah.
I think what we can't ignore is the fact that, you know, even though we choose to do a lot of research in crypto and OMI and stuff, like the large majority of people, right? It was very interesting to statistic. I think it was 15% of people, or maybe it was 15% of money that was given out as stimulus checks. It was used on crypto. And so you'd be surprised how many people don't put in any research. All their research will be is to read the description of what the token is about, and they'll put a little bit of money into it because they just, maybe they're too lazy to do some research, you know, some throwaway money. You know, like I admit I've done that in the past as well when I was first getting into crypto. Like, you know, I chuck some money on like DigiBuy, I chuck some money on some post, like, you know, I just read a little bit about it. I was like, oh, it has an app. Okay, let me throw money at it. You know, a few $100s here and there. Like it was just like casual, because I was like, it was more of a game of roulette for me. Like I was like, oh, like, you know, a couple of these projects will pop off. That's all I need. I don't care what the others do. If it sounds cool, then yeah. And OMI, like when you read it, you know, it's tied to like, you know, premium licenses and all that stuff. And a lot of these names people will know. So just by, you know, attrition and, you know, market movement, you will get lots of people throwing money into it if it's on the exchanges that most people or most newbies would use, which is Binance and Coinbase, right? If OMI pops up there, they'll probably see it, read what it does, and be like, okay, let me chuck a couple $100 on it. But if it doesn't even have the chance of being on there, on these top exchanges where newbies will kind of enter, because most newbies will not use, you know, Bitforex, I can tell you that. So yeah, that would have a much bigger impact, especially at the current market cap that it's at, than you'd imagine. So yeah, exchanges I think would definitely be the biggest factor right now, until, you know, we get more users on VeVe who want to use the utility as well.
Yeah.
I have to leave, but I wanted just to close with this. I bought Bitcoin in 2013 and Ethereum in 2019. And what we are feeling now feels exactly how basically my psychology was like, oh, this is never going to go up in valuation. I'm just going to give up right now. And I did. And of course, subsequently, those tokens blew up in price. So for me, having learned those two lessons twice, I'm just going to continue to hold almost no matter what happens. I'm just going to hold these tokens. And then in a couple of years, in 2025 and in 2025, that's where I'll make my decision of whether I'm going to continue holding or I'm going to sell off. But I think if you can make it through this time, I think there's going to be a reward. I think it's a lot closer than a lot of people think. But that's just my thought. Danny, I appreciate you having me on. I got to go pick up my daughter. Randy, Ivan, Kay, take care, guys.
See you, Dan. Thanks for joining us.
See you, Dan.
See ya.
To piggyback on Dan's exit note, is that I kind of have another strategy for getting more OMI, and it's a risk, but it's kind of like a calculated risk where I'm putting money into other tokens, and if OMI blows up before then, obviously I think OMI has one of the best ROIs that you could have out there in the crypto space, outside of like a meme coin that nobody knows what it's going to do. And you say like, okay, well, Chavez, why would you buy something that you could get like a 10x on, as opposed to something that you could OMI where you've said you can get 100x on? Well, if OMI decides to, or VeVe decides to delay a couple of things and other coins go up before OMI, well, then I'll use those profits and then I'll put it into OMI. So I put about 10K into Anchor, and if that goes up before OMI, I'll take the profits and put it into OMI. Like if let's say if we're at the start of a new bull market and OMI hasn't caught up yet and everything's up, 200%, 300%, OMI's up like 30%, I'll take those profits and put it into OMI, because I'm 100% positive everything we're talking about will come. And then if OMI happens to go and blow up before then, at the same time as everyone, okay, well, I still have 153 million, so I'm still fine.
Any concerns about regulatory risks to alts?
Not OMI. That's the one thing. I think
OMI is better protected just because they at least had the foresight not to do the ICO in the US. They did the ICO in the US, they'd be in a similar situation to I think Hex has the SEC on them as well, which was so funny.
Yeah, it looks like they're watching.
Good.
Richard Hart.
Nor have look at Richard Hart.
Picked up David Yu and Dan's accounts on Twitter, and David Yu has never once, unless he deleted it, I doubt it, he has never once tweeted like about OMI, like using specifically OMI. And Dan only once ever, and that was just to announce a new exchange like a year ago. So they're not actively like saying buy our token, like what Dapper Labs is going through. No rocket emojis.
I think if you want to see the exact polar opposite, go to Richard Hart's Twitter page and look at how much he talks about Hex, but not just Hex. He'll be like, literally every other tweet will be Hex has done blah, 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 % gains since last year. And literally, he's taken that and slapped it on the website. He's slapped it on the side of taxis. Like it's like the absolute hyperbolic catastrophe of like the exact opposite of what Dan and David have been doing with OMI.
I think
it's so funny.
Page used to retweet like when there was charts like the fastest moving or the best ROI for like of the week or the month, and OMI would be on the list. I kind of remember Ecomi retweeting that a few times, but I don't know how that would work out legally.
Oh, I remember that. Yes, I saw that. Yeah, I remember they did that.
They might be able to say that was from somebody that used to work for the company that had access to Twitter. They don't work here anymore, type of deal.
If it's not from the founders.
But what about the whole space? Do you guys think about, what if this XRP verdict comes back against, our favor? Do you think that there's a danger that they say all alts? And are you protecting yourself in that way? Because I have been building out a Bitcoin position just in the event that the alt space gets killed.
I personally don't feel comfortable having like too much of my portfolio in crypto for that reason. I'm actually at my lender's office right now getting pre-qualified. I decided I'm going to buy a little bit more property.
Yeah, my man.
So props to Randy, because that takes ohms of steel to go all in when you
Yeah, not done yet, but I mean, the politicians are largely uneducated about this, but they are eerily, they see China doing what they're doing and being a little more pro crypto. U.S. politicians, for all of the flaws that they have, and there are many, they are team pro America, and they know that doing that, they'd be doing that at their own peril, because China, that would just give China another big lead and citizens ahead against the U.S. as far as purchasing capital, as far as whatever. I don't think that happens.
Do you think the U.S. will stop short of crazy regulation so as not to give other countries an edge in the technology?
That's part of my thinking. Yeah, I think there'll be regulation, but I don't think it'll be. They'll get something done, and it'll just be so they can go to their constituents and say, "Hey, I did this to protect you," and the SEC, FTC, whatever. They'll try to pass something like, "Oh, That's why SEC went for like library, because like they knew they could win, so they could like justify their existence and be like, "Hey, we're doing this and we won." They'll go for easy game like that. Like they might go for Richard Hart and Hex, because clearly it should be an open and shut case. But for other things that are not so easy, that would take a long time, it'd be unpopular. Yeah, I don't think they'd do that. I think OMI's fairly safe.
Yeah. Got a question here. Is there any chance that VeVe will dump OMI altogether and not have a token? And a lot of people have kind of mentioned this. They feel like that's going to happen because it seems like the team doesn't really care for OMI. Ivan, you tweeted out something, a funny tweet. We don't talk about OMI.
Oh, yeah. You and was coming. They gave me the inside scoop.
So what do you guys think of that? No chance? Cue the Vince McMahon music.
No chance. Yeah, no, there's no. Sorry, go ahead. Go.
Well, I was gonna say there's obviously a chance that or anything else can happen, but I don't think so. I mean, in the last interview, Lori, when she asked him like directly, like, "Hey, everyone thinks that you're gonna just move on and keep making money with VeVe and abandon the OMI token," and he like word for word said that no, they're focused on the utility program, and which is good that every time they ask them about OMI, they just focus on mentioning the utility and not necessarily anything related to price action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did Kay smile like that at the camera?
Yeah. Don't know, because I can kind of now start to see what their play is, because they want to avoid talking about the token as far as price action and all of that stuff goes, because they want to avoid any potential scrutiny from the SEC or someone calling a security in the future, because they've done a good job so far of avoiding that path, right? Conversely, you have people like Richard Hart from Hex, who like does everything they can to talk about the price of their token. So I think what they're going to do is they're going to do what they've been doing with VeVe and as far as talking about VeVe goes, they always stress it's not investment platform. It's not investment platform. It's for collecting. And I think with OMI, what they're going to do is, talk about it as it's not something that, you're buying for like speculative gains. It's for utility that you can use in the app. That's what they're going to always talk about. And that protects them legally, right? And it protects us for people who do want to use it as a, like an investment, for example. So yeah, like as far as the utility program goes, I believe we will see that sooner rather than later, because the first part of it's already kind of working now. We are accumulating gems in the OMI to gem pool. So, the next part where they have like OMI to NFT, where you can, and also OMI to gem, I think, we'll probably see that this year, because as features, those aren't technically very super like complex. It's more so having that ability within the UI of the app, not too hard, and just embedding that with like the contracts as well. Swapping your OMI to gems, for example, which is something they used to have actually. So a lot of that stuff, the work had been done in the past. I think they can reuse a lot of it, or if they need to do it from scratch, that's fine. It's not a crazy amount of work that needs to be done. But yeah, that's all going to add a lot of value to OMI, and at that point, we're going to be burning from circulating supply. So we're going to see a lot more burn than we've probably ever seen. And I said, hey, OMI is only doing like less than $1 million of volume a day, right? Even now, it's like barely like a couple million. If we get in a month, like we're getting drops like nearly every day, then very, very, very easily we can see like $4 or $5 million worth of OMI just burn from circulation, assuming the OMI to gem pool is like fully topped up. And then you get like the secondary market transactions as well, like that's burning. And then hypothetically, if they have the VeVeVerse out and they decide to do the land sale in OMI, then all of that stuff I think is all going to be beneficial, like as far as the utility program goes. And they can do all of this without ever talking about potential gains with OMI. Like they don't even need to mention the token. But that's not that to say that the company itself won't ever talk about the token, because obviously yes it will. Reese does it all the time. But the last crypto bull run where OMI peaked at like 1.3 cents, even back then, like the team never really spoke about the token. So I don't think they need to speak about it, but it would be good if, at least from the company, it was like mentioned.
Just for
as far as the utility, as far as the utility goes, like maybe David went about and spoke a little bit more about it as well. But yeah.
The just that question that you had up before, when the owners have 30 billion OMI each, like you think they're just going to take that multi-billion-dollar opportunity to give it utility and have the price rise? Think they're just going to throw it away? Yeah. That's a really poor assessment. I don't, and I know like this person might just be asking for other people, but the people that are speculating that like that they would literally be throwing away a multi-billion-dollar thing that they had multiple people working on OMI and OUP for the better part of a year now. And now some of those people are working on things that we won't see for 2 more years. This is going to be a big part of the ecosystem.
Could VeVe's slow pace allow competitors to overshadow them? The Gale tweeted out this week about HRO, saying they had full ownership of assets, cash out, burning and crafting, metadata, in-app sales history, leaderboards, in-app trading, peer-to-peer, off-app, sellable packs, and opening animation, and a physical product already.
I thoroughly enjoy Hero. They are, they let me pull down one of the announcements in San Diego Comic-Con last year. They're really cool.
Oh yeah.
And despite everything that you just mentioned, despite multiple people from the VeVe fam doing videos on it, having live openings of packs, you still have a couple of their things, first appearances of these characters on the blockchain go for $1. And the only reason they go for that much is because the platform doesn't allow you to sell those things for $1 or for less than that. I mean, like Hero, they have a nice trifecta of, or Palm has that nice trifecta of Hero, Backhouse, and then the comics that are on there. So I think they'll be okay. and they are, again, I have them, I spend money on them. But if that's the closest we have to competition, they're a very distant second. And like the other stuff that's over here, like you had Tom Brady of Autograph.io that had Simone Biles, Tony Hawk himself, Derek Jeter, and like those NFTs, some people spend money on, but there's a lot of people that don't even know what it is. There's a lot of other companies that don't have people either don't know about it or they know about it and don't spend a lot. I think Recur, which has some of the best licenses out there, it has Star Trek, it has Hello Kitty, it has Nickelodeon. The passes are $40. That's just to be able to mint. There's this unless VeVe does nothing for 3 years, I don't think anyone comes close.
I think they have time, popular, like to what most people believe. I think between now and next bull run, as in like end of, I don't know, late 2024 or 2025, like peak of next bull run, I think they'll be fine between now and then, because there's a lot of people like me that no matter how advanced another platform is, if you're not giving me the first of that character, like metaverse ready, like 3D statue of that character, I am just not interested, because if I run it a full experience, I'll just pay $60 and play Grand Theft Auto all day long. But now beyond that, they do have to like eventually deliver interoperability and things of that nature. Because beyond that, as someone commented, if Disney just shifts gears and is like, no, this is now our NFT Spider-Man and we have a whole world around it, I could see how the non-interoperable Spider-Man would just start losing value, and the Batman and same all the other characters. But between now and next bull run, I think it'll be fine. But eventually, they do have to deliver on what the Web3 folk expect from an NFT project.
Yeah.
The three that I know
answer
of, the three that I know of, or the three most prominent ones in the 3D licensed digital collectible space with, as Ivan said, with metaverse ready assets would be the classic one, TVK, which I think is like the least spoken about one. And they're the one who actually kind of did the whole metaverse thing first with the land and everything. I don't know how popular it is. I do remember reading something about one of the Cardano lands like going for a stupid amount of money. And then there's Quid, which went from not being an NFT platform to having become an NFT platform in like the past year or so, and they've done a pretty good job at it. And I know that although their licenses, I think that's what they're lacking on. The licenses aren't like as top tier for the NFT side, because they do have like some good licenses, but they can't do it. They're not allowed, or I don't think they're allowed to do NFTs for those ones, as of right now anyway. But they allow the 3D assets to be ported into Sandbox, for example, and Spatial. So that's quite interesting. And then the kind of newest one would be McFarlane Digital, who I think, as far as the 3D assets go, they make the best looking ones in my opinion. But those are obviously, restricted to the desktop platform, because obviously, nicer 3D models require more power, more powerful machine to render them. I think if any of those ones came out with better licenses, and there were FAs, for example, then it'll be interesting to see. But I think just having a couple of good IP isn't good enough. Like, the platform needs to move. If it was moving at the pace that, in terms of features that, for example, Hero moves at, and they had more IP because Hero's kind of pigeonholed into DC, and they had like the 3D statues that are metaverse ready, essentially kind of doing what VeVe's doing, but they're able to release features a lot faster, then I think that would be closer competition. But we have yet to see a platform like that. I think it'll probably be McFarlane that comes the closest to being like similar to VeVe, just because Todd McFarlane has a history of working with big IP. They also are doing 3D collectibles, and from what I've seen so far, they've delivered a lot from the get-go. So I want to give them a bit more time and see what they come up with. But apart from that, there isn't much that's kind of got the full package like VeVe has right now. Like, they've got some good things, some bad things. But VeVe kind of encompasses multiple,
and they don't have
good points.
the community that VeVe has, which you can't
Yeah,
really.
and the community. Yeah, that's a big one.
The hardest thing, perhaps.
Yeah, I think all of them, even if you combined all of their communities, it still wouldn't be as big as the VeVe community.
I think their communities come from the VeVe community for the most part.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But guys, I think, well, that's a good place to wrap it up. I want to thank you all for jumping on. It was a good chat. Thanks, Ivan. Randy, you gave us FA fart on the channel. I'll always appreciate that. That was the best.
Of course.
Jay. Always great chatting. And thanks for everyone in the comment section. Thanks for showing up. See you next time.
Peace, guys.
See you guys.
Bye-bye, Dashi.
Later.